So I think there's going to be a time at the end for questions. Amber's going to moderate a panel right now. Amber is a student who I met actually when I was teaching a class. I was teaching a child development class. I met Amber in my class and I just thought she is great. And I offered her a job as well, I told her about the FRC. Unfortunately, she didn't even know about it. She had a little girl at the time and she was pregnant, and she came to the FRC and used our services and loved them. And we hired her as a student worker, and she has risen through the ranks, and we work very closely together. And she is amazing at a lot of things. And one of the things she's really great at is being a moderator. So I'm going to turn it over to Amber right now.
Thank you, Marnie. Hi, good afternoon, everyone, and happy International Women's Day. I'm really thrilled to be here with all of you. It's been such a journey. It was exciting to see that presentation from Marnie. Again, I'm Amber Angel. I'm the program coordinator at the Family Resource Center. Was a student parent. I've already been introduced, but I would love for my panel to jump on as well and let them introduce themselves. I have Christy Blackburn, who's the Dean of Academic Affairs at Los Angeles Southwest College, Kate Mahar, Dean of Innovation and Strategic Initiatives at Shasta College, and Dr. Larissa Lopez, Professor in Department of Women, Gender, and Sexuality Studies at CSU Fresno. So panelists, welcome, and just shout it out. Let's start. Kind of, how are you all replicating components of what this holistic two-gen approach looks like? Can you just give us a brief overview of your role and who you serve on your campus, what you do? Go for it, Christy.
Okay, great. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't going to speak over anyone. So I'm a Dean of Academic Affairs at Los Angeles Southwest College, and we have just started our FRC. And it's been an exciting process. Our college profile, our student profile is 97% students of color. We have both the HSI and BSI designations. 50% of our students are first generation as of 2021. 85% receive financial aid, 70% are female, and 70% are under the age of 30. So it kind of gives you a reason why this is so important to our college. In regards to the process, the FRC is just getting ready to open. And so it's been the process of building over the past 6 or 8 months. And I'm just privileged to be here today. I am on our advisory board. And so I really have to give kudos to everyone who has been doing all the heavy lifting on it. And I'll turn it over to the next person.
Great. Thank you, Christy. Go for it, Larissa.
Hi, everybody. My primary role is Professor of Women's Gender and Sexuality Studies at Fresno State. And for the past 6 years, I've been leading efforts around data collection and integrating supports for student parents, as well as providing education and general awareness to faculty and staff on student parent equity and success. So we are not replicating a family resource center, but there are definitely some components that we are trying to map on to our campus. The work has happened very much in pockets, trying to break through some of the silos around some of the work. And I think that's something that folks who are involved in student parent work contend with. And so I'm just really, really eager to hear more about what's happening in our community college system, because I really think that you all are models and we have a lot to learn from you. And I'm also a student parent, or former student parent of 3 children at the time. And then I had my son on the tenure track.
Greetings, everybody. What an honor to be here with such an incredible group of people and such many women that I really look up to here on this call. So thank you so much. My name is Kate Mahar. I'm a Dean of Innovation at Shasta College, community college in the far northern area of California. We we really started thinking about this work around 2016 when we recognized how some of our data around working adults and how our programming wasn't set up to serve folks that were trying to work at the same time as going to school. So we built a program that really looked at the system sides of things, how we're offering courses, case management, single point of contact. The program is called ACE. And what's interesting is that as the program has been getting going since 2016 and growing, over 70% of our students are actually parents. So we are thinking developing a program for adults that were balancing work. What we really ended up doing is developing a program that really honored students that were also balancing family. So I can talk about that a little bit more. Our connection to the Family Resource Center is that we get to work closely with them. Since we started with looking at the systems side of the house, we now get to really build a resource center based on all the great work that they have done to complement our ACE program. And I'm sitting in a space that we came back to about 4 days ago, and we're building little chairs and desks, and we have places for kids. And so grateful to be part of this partnership as we continue to figure out the best ways to serve our families.
Thank you all. And I guess I apologize because I didn't even lead with that. The Family Resource Center has secured 2 grants to replicate the model and are working with LA Southwest, which is one of our sister colleges in our 9-college district, to replicate a Family Resource Center, as well as with Shasta College up north to do a statewide workforce replication model. And I have questions for both of you in regards to what that was like, and for other interested parties who are looking at maybe doing some of this and haven't. But for you, Larissa, something from our call that really stuck out with me is your passion behind this for a 4-year, and you see the connection, you see the crack in the sidewalk from community colleges to a 4-year. And I know for myself, I checked all those boxes. I was a first generation. No one in my family went to school. I was a young mom. I got all the support at Valley, and I don't want to step on anybody's Cal State Northridge toes, but there was a really big crack for me. And if I wouldn't have had the support at the Family Resource Center to hold me through my, journey, I would have never graduated, and I wouldn't be here with you all today. And so, what's the climate been like since, I graduated, but what are the goals? How do you envision supporting student parents? Is there funding? How are you pushing this agenda forward?
Yeah, thank you. So it's a lot of questions, but I'm going to focus on a couple of them. So first of all, I want to say that I really appreciate the vision of this panel and the inclusion of 4-year institutions, because I think we really do need to be talking more to each other and thinking across systems and thinking intersegmentally. And, again, I think it's really important to acknowledge that community colleges really are leading the way in student parent work. We have so much to learn from them. So having said that, I think one of my goals is, to your point, Amber, that, we need to be student parent ready. I want our campuses, our 4-year institutions to be student parent ready, and to ensure that student parents who felt supported in their community colleges don't feel like they're losing that support when they get to our campus. So they should feel seen, recognized, supported. They should see themselves reflected in our campus stories and in our resources, because one thing, part of my kind of messaging around this is that student parents, their presence is not passive, right? They have done the cost benefit analysis to choose and to decide to be there. It's a very intentional presence. And so our responsibility is to be ready for them. And so I think, my vision is anchored in a few things. It's anchored in a commitment to recognition, a commitment to equity, and the firm belief that student parent work is key to democratizing higher education. But to circle back to your climate question, I really appreciate the question, because this is something that I've struggled with. I think that as much as we talk about the presence of post-traditional students on our campuses, there's still questions around our responsibility as institutions to do this work. And this is really where leadership at the upper level and advocacy and student voice make a difference. At least those have made a difference in my work. And I think that as a result of the pandemic and as a result of just the groundswell, the growing numbers of student parent advocates, that we're really trending in the direction of nurturing family serving climate. But we need to make sure that these are not just trends and that this work is sustained. So, this means strategies such as explicitly including student parents in our strategic plans, which is not something that I see on our 4-year campuses quite yet.
I appreciate your thoughtful response. And I too appreciate the thoughtfulness that was put into this panel to look at bringing in two former student parents to have this conversation as well. And you brought up a good point about kind of climate and institutional buy-in. And I know Christy, Southwest College is having the grand opening of their Family Resource Center this month, which is so exciting. And as you kind of gave a brief overview even of your demographics, it looks very different than the students we serve at Valley. And that, we were intentional about how you would open and what services would look like for your population. So can you talk a little bit about that? What were some of the barriers and opportunities for the buy-in of this, need?
Sure. I'm on our advisory board, so I haven't been one of the engines driving it. I've been on the train, helping keeping the wheels go with enthusiasm and excitement. And so all of the credit goes to our amazing leadership team at the college that brought it together. But like I mentioned, it's been 6 to 8 months just to get it started. So all of the planning meetings and the early formation of the advisory board, and that really created a lot of the buy-in. And because I think most all of us that were asked to serve we were just excited about it straight out of the gate. And so I don't perceive any obstacles or barriers there. Right now, what we are facing as an institution, as many California community colleges are, is the students need to come back. We're hopeful that it'll be the great intersection between opening the FRC and seeing students return in person. And so I would say that's probably our biggest obstacle right now. But we've really managed to, I think, as a campus, do some transformation because we now have a food pantry as well. I think we got the food pantry established and up and functional during the pandemic. And now we have students that can use it that do come to campus. At our last advisory board meeting, we talked about once we get it built, possibly bringing in a career closet to be a part of it. And so we are already building on the enthusiasm, but we also don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. And so, but it's been a very collaborative process. Our last advisory board meeting, we talked about the physical layout and logistics of the center. And we also talked about the logo. And if anything, you could see the excitement just based on the conversations about the logo itself. I mean, everybody was engaged. And so we're really excited and proud of what we're going to be able to do for students to help students.
I'm really excited. It's been a fun part to be a part of those meetings as well. And to piggyback on this conversation and kind of a concern, I think, at least something we often talk about is sustainability and institutionalizing this as an important equity issue. Those student parents aren't identified as an equitable population or an equity group. Kate, you have done some incredible work at Shasta, leveraging things that were already existing, whether it be basic needs funding or equity funding. And I would love for you to just kind of talk about how you saw an opportunity as a bigger picture to look at adult learners who are parents and kind of support it that way.
Well, I'd love to say that it was some great planning, but a lot of it was just luck. It was the right work at the right time. We really dug deep into our data and realized that 2 out of 3 of folks over 25 in our 10,000 square mile radius had some college and no degree. And so we really started looking at who weren't completing and why. And we found some real eye-opening trends. One of them is how we were defining our students with the traditional student, thinking services designed for 18 to 24-year-olds. Those aren't our students. Those aren't many community colleges students. So it was the campus coming together and really trying to look at our data and figure out how we could better serve the needs of our students. So what we recognized, we did some focus groups with students and we reached out to folks, is especially with our parenting students, we weren't offering courses in the way that they could take them. Monday and Wednesday from 1 to 3, Tuesday and Thursday from 9 to 11, and then that all changes the next semester. That made it almost impossible to set up childcare. But we switched to set schedules for our adult pathways where they could just commit to Tuesdays and Thursday evenings for the next 2 years. And we had structured schedules and compressed courses and designated case counselor that just made sure that the students could get the courses that they needed. And that way they could tell their employers, they could tell their families, I need help on Tuesdays and Thursdays from these hours, and that's not changing. When we were getting ready for this panel, I reached out to the ACE team and asked the parents what's their favorite part of the program. One is the compressed courses, because the courses are 8 weeks, so students could take them 2 at a time. And by virtue of doing that twice in a semester, they're full-time students. And all of the services that are available to them by virtue of being full-time is very significant. The other is the single point of contact, so that they don't have to track something down between 8 and 5. We're available when they are, when their kids are asleep or at school or around their workday, and they can get the information that they need, or we can find it for them. So consistent schedules and case management support and allowing them to be able to predict their schedules has been really significant. And we have on-ramps and off-ramps in case life happens, as it will. So if they need to take off an 8-week cycle, they can jump right back on. But the beauty of it is that we've now been able to partner with the Family Resource Center, and we're looking at how their model can be adapted in a more rural environment. So how do we have a center when we've got 10,000 square miles? And how can we look at that maybe in a decentralized way? And what are the common elements? And then what's really unique in rural? What's been exactly the same is that partnership chart. Even though the partners are different, who's doing childcare and who can help with housing and who can help with, economic issues and who can help with that chart has been the same framework for our design. So that's been interesting how that transcends the demographics of the region. And we're excited to pull out those other trends as well to, just talk about what we've learned as we try to adapt to this amazing model.
The consensus I am just thinking about from all three of you speaking, and just in general from since 4 o'clock, is the enthusiasm and kind of the shared vision that student parents are on our campus, and we care about what they have to say, and we're trying to be student ready versus having the student be college ready, and recognizing that they have lives outside of school that impact their ability to be successful. And I just we have 5 minutes, and then I want to open it up for, questions and answers. And I just want to give my final thoughts about kind of as from my perspective of a parent, that I would like each of you to give a moment to give your final thought. And actually it's not 5 minutes, it's 8 minutes. I consider myself a PCP student. When I was at Valley College, I was parking lot, class parking lot. And there's a lot of guilt and there's a lot of shame in being a student parent, because you're spending a lot of time away from your children. And one of the things that was very significant to me was to just have a place to come that I could identify both as a student and as a mother. And being able to bring my children to campus and have them be a part of that. The conversations now I have with my children are not if they're going to go to college, it's what are they going to study? And that I got to break that generational curse of poverty for me that education granted me. So I just want to take the moment again to thank all of you who are here to gain an understanding of this need and of this amazing population. Because I promise you, student parents don't need to be empowered. We're empowered. We just need a little bit of support. So with that, I would love, Larissa, if you could give your final thoughts whatever that might be, and Kate and Christy, and thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you again. So I guess, I wanted to end with saying that student parent work can feel isolating and siloed. But I want everybody to know that there are pockets of advocates that are working across the state. And, this year we've really started to come together more intentionally around this work. So do find ways, to connect to statewide efforts. I also want us to think about pushing for more conversations between 2 and 4 year campuses. We have a lot to learn from one another. And I think that we work together, we have the potential to push for more legislative change. And lastly, something that I feel like this is just my mantra that I keep repeating. We don't need data to start prioritizing and to start acting. I think that there's a lot of data already out there that we can work from, that already exists, that can support our visions for this work. But if we can collect it, do collect it. But we don't absolutely need it to start acting.
Christy, did you have any final thoughts, or Kate?
Sure.
And if you don't, that's okay too.
Sure. I think it's really important. Today's international theme of women in 2022 is the gender equality today, sustainable for the future. And I couldn't think of a better quote that really fits really just spot on with what we're talking about today, because it is about equity, and it is about equality, and it is about helping women and parenting men as well to move forward, because it's about our society and our community. And so for us, sustainability will come. We're not quite sure how that is going to look and what that's going to entail. We were fortunate enough to start our Family Resource Center with a grant from the Leonetti O'Connor Family Foundation. And so with that seed money, we're going to get it built, and then we're going to continue to fund it annually thereafter. So yeah, it's really exciting.
Amber, I love what you said about adult students not needing to be motivated. And I think the big takeaway from all this is just the asset model that we need to think about with parents and with families, and how they add to the classroom, how they add to every component of the campus. Janet, who now works with our ACE program, was an ACE student with 4 kids, said, what's the use of resources if we can't access them? We need that bridge to be able to access what is there. And also that it's really, it's not that folks need help, it's just they need access to be able to take a class when they have time to take that class, and they need to get the information that they needed at a time that works. So there was a great question in the chat about how to rethink everything on campus, and student government was called out intentionally, and such a great point. Wherever we can get the voice of students and parenting students is going to be better for the entire institution. So I will follow up with that suggestion and see what we can do about looking at all of our governance structures to make sure all voices are heard.
And I would just say, to close out and piggyback on that, is that it is important. You don't need the data to get started, but it is important to know who your student parents are, because I think messaging and marketing to each student group is important to feel seen and heard. And so at any rate that you're able to pull the data, whether it even incomplete as financial aid is, they do indicate that they have a dependent. I say that that's a really easy thing that you can get going on your campus if that's something you're looking to do. And I will just plug in that starting in July, we're going to be releasing a report. We received funding to produce a toolkit data released with the Institute for Women's Policy Research, and all of these survey data questions are going to be a part of that as well. So stay tuned. And I believe I'm passing it off to Dr. Erica Andrew Jonas to have some closing remarks. Thank you all so much.